So he made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. See, so Fred meets tradition 3. It doesn't look like the other 2 guys did. See, so what do these 3 guys have in common? See, what do they all rely on to do? Their minds. Yeah, self-knowledge. See, they're all making a decision. See, what have they all done? They've all put the plug in the jug. See, have you put the plug in the jug? See? You made up your mind to quit drinking altogether? We're going to see what's going to happen to this guy, see, who has decided he's never going to drink again. Okay, see, it never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so. See, it doesn't even enter his mind, even after he's been told about the disease, see, that is even remotely possible, to be powerless over this. See, it doesn't even occur to him. Perhaps he could not do so in spite of his character and standing. See, this is how serious alcoholism can be. See, even when you have all the facts and the information, it's like, yeah, right, but that's not possible. See, this whole idea of powerless for most of us goes, not possible. Okay, Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. See, we told him what we knew of alcoholism. See, so these 2 guys go 12-step Fred, and they explain all the doctor's opinion. See, they tell their drunkalogs in the sense of trying to get him to see the progression of his own disease. They explain to him the cycle of drinking, about the disease of it, the allergy and the obsession, the restless, irritable, and discontent. See, the certainty of the phenomenon of craving and the loss of control and the continued deterioration and all the things that we've learned out of the book up to this point. They tell Fred that. See, and they also tell Fred about the 12 steps, see, and a spiritual solution to that problem, how that's the only remedy. See, I'm sure they gave him all the medical facts from Carl Jung and from Dr. Silkworth. See, and Fred's going, yeah, right, thanks. Okay, says he was interested and conceded he had what? Some of the symptoms. Put your finger on the word conceded. Go back to page 30. Look at the first sentence of the second paragraph and find the same word. Conceded. We learned that we had to what? Fully. To what? Our innermost self, that we were alcoholics. Remember we talked about that this ain't about admitting it to your sponsor. It's not about admitting it to your counselor or your therapist or your wife or your kids, see, or to people in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. See, this needs to be admitted where? To us. See, where's the last admission going to take place? See, right in here. You bet. Here. So, see, Fred's interested. He concedes that he has some of the symptoms, but he was a long way from admitting he could do nothing about it himself. See, what's your experience? See, are you still a long way from admitting that you're powerless over this? See, have you conceded some of the symptoms? See, for those of us who can honestly say we have conceded some of the symptoms, what I'd like you to ask yourself, see, is which symptoms don't you have? See, start looking at the ones you think you don't have. See, start being honest about those. Don't mess around with the ones you've already conceded. Just find out the ones you think you don't have and take those apart. See? So here's something that we call half measures in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? So he's making the, yeah, sort of. See, but he's a long way from admitting he was powerless. He could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience plus the what? Knowledge. Where is his knowledge? In his mind, his intellect. Plus the knowledge he had acquired would do what? Keep him sober the rest of his life. See, so what's Fred going to rely on? Okay, now what did we learn over at the top of page 37 about self-knowledge? Ain't going to do it. See, it's not reliable when it comes to alcoholism. Okay, now if you'd all get a pen and a piece of paper, we're going to construct a mental defense here and come to some understanding of why mental defenses don't work. I used to go to a lot of Rams games when I was a kid over in Los Angeles. So that was back in the 60s. The NFL, they didn't have the passing rules they have today, and most of the games were, 6-3, 12-9, stuff like that. And Everybody loved the defense. It wasn't about the offense. It was defense, defense. And a lot of us would come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's what we got this chant: defense, defense. Okay? Meetings, defense, defense. Feelings, defense, defense. See? Against what? Okay? If you feel like you're on the defensive, have you felt like you're on the defensive? You might ask yourself why. And why that is, and how you're defending yourself. Okay, first thing we know about a mental defense, simply because of the term, is it goes on where? In the mind. In the mind. Okay. Well, we're talking about Fred, see? So this is Fred's mind. Okay. It says that Fred is positive. Okay? Positive is an attitude. See, what's the opposite of positive? Negative. See? So what's your attitude? Are you positive or are you negative? See, when it comes to what we're talking about. Fred, see, is not a jerk. See? But he's positive. See? Certain, beyond any shadow of a doubt. See? So positive is an attitude. The opposite of positive is negative. Okay? Now, what is he positive of? See? He's positive about a couple of things. We don't know what a human mind actually looks like, so I'm drawing it as a circle cut in half. Okay, over on this side. See, he's positive that this hospital experience he has just had, see, and what is the hospital experience? Well, he was physically pretty screwed up. Remember they called it a bad case of jitters? He's very ashamed, see, of what had gone on here. He felt humiliated. See? They told us he was depressed about this. See? The doctor, he had a doctor's opinion. Remember, the doctor hinted strongly that he might be worse than he realized, and he didn't even want to hear that. Okay? So there's a lot of stuff. If you've been in a treatment center or a recovery house or a hospital as a result of your alcohol and drug addiction, see, you're probably pretty clear of what Fred was experiencing here. See, this is called lousy. See, NFN, no fucking fun. Okay, so he's positive that the hospital experience, you can't read that, it says jitters, ashamed, humiliated, depressed, and there's a doctor's opinion. Everybody got it? Okay, so he's positive that the hospital experience plus what? The self-knowledge he had acquired. See, now, what is this self-knowledge that he's acquired? Well, see, these two guys from AA came and talked to him. See, and they loaded him up with the medical facts, all the stuff that we're talking about. See, so he knows at this point that alcoholism is a disease. He knows about the cycle of drinking. He knows about the allergy. He knows about the obsession that exists in the mind. He knows about the chronic alcoholic mind. Never seen one single case recover. So he knows all about the disease. He also knows all about the program. Okay. So he knows a lot. I don't think you could hang around Bill Wilson or Dr. Bob, one of those early folks, and not get pretty much a wheelbarrow full of information about the nature of what's going on. Okay, so here it is. See, here's Fred. In his mind, he's positive. This is his attitude and his belief. See, that the hospital experience he just had, plus the self-knowledge he acquired from these guys, he was going to keep him sober. See, so that makes him think, see, that he has this, a choice in whether he's going to drink or not. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So he doesn't need a spiritual method of recovery. He doesn't need to work with anybody. He doesn't need any of the stuff that the guys from AA were telling him about, because he thinks he has a choice. He's going to be able to choose not to drink. Right? Now, any mental defense, see, has to work on some functions in the human mind. See, now Fred can't walk around. He can't walk out of this hospital and spend the rest of his life going, boy, I was in the hospital, and I learned all this stuff about alcoholism, and in the hospital was bad. He's got a life to live. See, he's a partner in a well-known accounting firm. He's got to go do business. He's got to raise his kids. He's got to pay his bills. He's got to do, normal things like all the rest of it. See, so let's say here's, say I'm Fred, and here's my accounting kind of stuff, and I go over to Roy's Widget Company on a Monday morning, and working with President Roy here on his books, and 11:45, Roy says, well, let's wrap this up for a while and go have lunch. And I say, great. So Roy and I go down to whatever club Roy belongs to, and Roy orders a double martini and asks me what I want. See? And immediately I have to remember this. See? And then tell Roy no. See? So two things, see, are going to happen and work in my life if this is going to work. See, and one of those is my memory, and the other one is my willpower. Okay? So, I tell Roy no, and I have iced tea. Okay? And then I go meet Dave after work, and Dave and I are going to play the back nine at the country club, and we get finished playing golf. Dave says, let's go over to the 19th hole and have a couple of brewskis. It's a hot afternoon, and I say, oh, no, thanks, Dave. I'll just have a Pepsi. Because I have to remember this, and then I have to make the choice. I have to be able to say no to Dave. See, now it's worked twice, right? See, so now I go home. I'm married to Kristen. See, and she's all wrapped in saran wrap, got candles on the table, and Chateaubriand for two. And she says, see, would you chill the wine while I make the Caesar salad? See, and what do I have to do? Oops. No, let's not have wine. I'll just have some coffee. See, and see, every time something occurs in Fred's life, see, he's going to have to make a choice, and his choice is going to be based on whether he can remember this, see, and use his willpower to say no to the drink. See, now that's the outside stuff. Then there are going to be all those times, see, when I'm out there mowing the lawn, it's 110 degrees, see, and this thought's going to enter my mind, one Budweiser, be great. Oops, no, I'm going to have to, just have some iced tea. Then I'm going to have to go through my life, and I just assume, because I can do this in a lot of other areas of my life, that it's going to work, see, with alcohol. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? All right, now, if you would, keep your finger on page 40 and go back to page 24. Let's just start right up at the top of page 24. We're going to look at some things that we looked at in chapter 2. It says that at a certain point, everybody there? Very top of the page. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, now this is Fred in this case, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. Does Fred have a pretty powerful desire to stop drinking now? Yeah, see? But they've told him that that's going to avail him nothing. He doesn't buy that. Says this tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. Does Fred suspect it? He's still got a wife and kids and a good business. He doesn't look like an alcoholic. See, it doesn't occur to him that this could be possible. See, but I'm sure the guys from AA told him it was so. It says the fact is that most Freds, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Does Fred believe that?
Nope.
No. It says our so-called what? Does Fred believe that? No. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory. See, Fred's going to rely on his memory, isn't he? Okay, this is how a mental defense works. Memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. Okay? The almost certain consequences. What's Fred going to rely on? Certain consequences. Remembering how bad it was in the hospital. It says the almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind. See, but Fred thinks he's going to be able to think it through and remember the consequences of the previous time. Okay, see, so they told Fred all of this stuff. See, Fred goes, no way. That may be true about you guys, see, but not me. See? And so he constructs this wonderful mental defense, see, which is a pretty good one. And he's going to rely on who? Himself. Okay, everybody understand what he's done here? How this works? Now, if you would, flip your piece of paper over, get another piece of paper. See, write mental defense at the top, then put your name with an apostrophe S and the word mind, the same as we did here. What's your attitude? Are you positive or negative? And what have you been relying on to stay sober? Draw your own circle. This isn't a test. You don't have to show it to anybody else. This is so we can all take a look at where we are. If you rely on your sponsor, put your sponsor in there. If you rely on meetings, put meetings in there. Love, relationships, aftercare, therapy, books, self-knowledge, whatever you got. How bad it was. Putting down whatever you're putting down, begin to ask yourself, have you thought that this stuff is giving you a choice in whether you're going to drink or not? You got a bunch of reasons that telling you you're not as bad as what they're talking about here. I haven't gone that far. I haven't lost everything. I didn't drink that long. I didn't drink this much. I haven't been in the hospital yet. See, whatever. See, put those in here too. Reasons go on where? In the mind. Where's the main problem? In the mind. Did you do that meeting like this? Yeah, right. You need a bigger circle.
I have a bigger paper.
This would probably be a good place to take our break. So why don't we take a break, and then if you need to finish, just go ahead. You all right? Okay, let's go back to page 40. Okay, so here's Fred. So he has been 12th step. He's been getting all the information that we're talking about. He doesn't buy it. He doesn't think it's true about him. So he's going to rely on his decision, see, to quit drinking. See, he doesn't think he's a real alcoholic because he hasn't lost everything in life. He's not as bad as the two guys that came to see him and told their story and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so the second paragraph says, we heard no more of Fred for a while. Okay, underline the next two words. One day. Those of you who have been around Alcoholics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous for any length of time are already aware that every relapse story ever told starts with those two words. One day. Just this day. One day, we were told he was back in the hospital. My, what a surprise. Okay. We're shocked. Okay. This time he was quite what? What was he the first time? Jittery. What do we see happening? Progression. See? And the severity of what's going on. See, this time he's quite shaky. Remember the same thing was shown to us in Bill's story about how he went to live at the country club, and he had all the dough and having all that fun. He began to be jittery in the morning. He just blew it off. And a couple of years later, he was waking up with the violent shakes. He hadn't worked in 3 years at that point. So we see the same thing starting to happen to Fred here. Okay, he soon indicated he was anxious to see us. The story he told is most instructive, for here was a chap, see, absolutely convinced that he had to do what? Stop drinking. Who had no excuse for drinking. Okay. Have you had excuses? Anybody find excuses in your little circle there? Okay. Who exhibited splendid judgment and determination where? All his other concerns. Yeah. Remember, this guy owns a business. He's got kids. He's sending them to school. He's paying his bills. He's doing fine everywhere else in his life. See, but what's the evidence? Yet was flat on his back nonetheless. Okay? So we all need to, ask ourselves, what am I doing here? Okay? What am I doing here? How did I get to Alcoholics Anonymous? What's the evidence? Okay, let him tell you about it. All right, now, does everybody have an underliner, a highlighter? If you don't, get one out of the pink box, because we're going to mark the I, me, my's again. Everybody remember page 2? I. Page 36, I. We're going to do the same thing here. Also, just notice as we go through this how these guys in the early days of AA worked with the guys and women that they were working with. See, it was always, see, it's not you stupid jerk, you unwilling idiot. See, you don't really want to stop drinking. See, it was always, let's go back and see what was going on right before you started. See, because the guys who were in AA, they understood, see, that this mental stuff is going on. There's no defense against it, see, and we got to make this clear to all the newcomers who walked in. Okay, so let him tell you about it. I, so mark the I, was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I, frankly, did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which, what's the next word? Precedes the first drink. So, is the sober alcoholic insane? Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. See, but I was confident. What kind of confident is he? Self. I was confident it could not happen to me after what I had learned. This is a great 3 words. I reasoned I. The reason bracketed by 2 pillars of me. Probably my favorite 3 words in the whole book. I reasoned I was not so far advanced, say down the doom curve we've been talking about, as most of you fellows, that I had been usually successful in looking my other personal problems, how are you guys doing everywhere else, that I would therefore be successful where you men fail. Does this sound a little arrogant and somewhat superior? It sounds just like me when I was new in Alcoholics Anonymous. The same kind of attitude. I'm not, like you. I'm different. I felt I. See, I like those also. You trust your feelings? See? I'm dealing with my feelings. I felt I had every right to be what kind of confident? Self-confident. That it would be only a matter of exercising my what? See, what doesn't work? Willpower. And keeping on guard. See, remembering how bad it was. In this frame of what?
Mind.
Where is the main problem?
Mind.
The mind. I went about my business, and for a time all was well. I had no trouble refusing drinks and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. See, and this is where it gets real dangerous. See, here's Fred. See, he's in the hospital. The 2 guys from AA come and talk to him, and they lay the whole 9 yards about alcoholism on him, like we've been talking about. Fred goes, I'm not that bad, and he constructs a mental defense like this. And then he sets forth, see, his little ship of life, and the mental defense works. See, he goes and talks to Roy at the widget company and doesn't have a martini at lunch. He goes and plays golf with Dave at the country club, and he doesn't drink any beer. See, he remembers, his willpower works, he chooses not to drink, and it's working. Okay? He goes home, has dinner with Kristen, doesn't drink the wine. See, and he's going through his life, and this thing that he's relying on is working. See? It's working great. See? And he begins to wonder, see, about what those guys from AA told him. They're nuts. They're just trying to scare me. See? It isn't that bad. See? Anybody had that kind of thinking? Well, sure, I'll just go to meetings. I'll just deal with my feelings. I'm sober. Been sober 6 months, 6 years now. No problem. Begin to wonder, hey, see, this powerless stuff is not really true because look what I'm doing. It's working. Anybody thought that way? Okay. And here's Fred, see, now he's really beginning to doubt. See, everything's working in his life, and he's really got some serious doubts about those 2 guys from AA who came and told him that this wouldn't work. See, they're just trying to scare me. See, and one more time. See, if you look back in your experience, did you get a lot of information about drugs and alcohol before you ever did drugs and alcohol? Did you get warnings and stuff from your parents and from school and leaflets and TV and all that? Most of us did. See? And then we start doing the drugs and alcohol, see, and it's great. See, and we immediately conclude that all those people, everything they said about it was a lie. Oh, man, they were just trying to keep me from having fun. See? And we set off, see, on this whole course of drug addiction and alcoholism. See? And see, based on that experience that we have, see, we make an incorrect determination. See, so here's Fred, see, thinking the same way. See, I had no trouble refusing. I had no trouble making 90 meetings. See? I got no trouble now. See, I'm sober. See? And began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. What are the next two words you see? One day. What do all relapse stories start with? One day. Okay, one day, I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a government bureau. I had been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Physically, I felt fine. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew my partners would be too. It was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. Hey, does this guy sound like he's too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? He's on pink cloud. See, on some of our meetings, people say, well, if you just don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, so you'll be all right. Anybody thought that? See, well, this guy ain't those things. See, and he's about to drink. See, so don't get too successful or happy either. Okay, now, before we go into the next paragraph, what do you see that we have just marked in these two paragraphs? See a lot of I's and me's and mi's? See, who's Fred thinking about? What's he concerned with? All right, keep your finger there on page 41 and go back to page 20 and read the first sentence on the top of page 20. You got it highlighted. Very lives, sex problem drinkers, depend on our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. Okay, go back to page 36. Page 36, there's Jim right before he drank. Who's Jim thinking about? What happened to Jim? He drank. Okay, go back over here to page 40 and 41. Who's Fred thinking about? See, and Fred's about to drink. See, so what did Jim and Fred have in common? Remember Jim was a little pissed off. See, his life wasn't going anywhere near as well as Fred's. See, Fred's having a great day. Jim wasn't having a great day. See, so they don't have that in common. What do they have in common? Self-centeredness. That's what they have in common. See? And they have one other thing in common, an obsession. Okay? Okay, end of it, back on page 41. The end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. I went to my hotel and leisurely dressed for dinner. No problem. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room, the thought came to mind. Let's get fucked up! That's not what happens, is it? See? He's whistling and doing great. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room, the thought came to mind that it would be nice. Remember the tip of the iceberg I showed you last week? It would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. And that was all, nothing more. See? This isn't some giant major thing that strikes him and says, let's really tie one on there, Fred, it'll be great. See? It's just simple thought, have a drink with dinner. Okay? Now, everybody, look at the last word in the italics. What word is that? More. Okay, put your finger on the word more. Right, now slide it down to the end of the word more. You see the period right there? See, that's it. That's all that entered his mind. See, nothing beyond that. Now, slide your finger just a nano over to the right, and you'll see a little white space there. See? Everybody see the little white space? It's just to the right of the period that follows the last word in italics. Okay, everybody see that? Now look up here. What was supposed to occur in that little white space? All of this. See? Let's all read the next sentence together out loud.
I ordered a cocktail against my meal.
What happened to the mental defense? It ain't there. See? It just isn't there. All right? See, it worked, and 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 one day what happened? It didn't work. See? And what happens? He orders the drink. See? That's his will acting on the thought that just entered his mind. Okay? I ordered a cocktail and my meal. Then what happened? I ordered another cocktail. What's happening immediately? Phenomenon of craving. See? All he's got to do is take the first drink. I ordered another cocktail. Okay? After dinner, I decided to take a walk. Okay? When I returned to the hotel, it struck me. Now, isn't that interesting word, struck? It struck me that a highball would be fine before going to bed. I stepped into the bar and had how many? And you see the way they write this, the illusion that this guy has, that he's going to go in and have one more? See? The illusion of control. So he steps into the bar to do what? Just to have a highball. See, this thing is still going on in his mind. Okay, so he goes in to have one, but what drink is that? That's number 3. Okay? He says, I remember having several more that night. Okay, and plenty the next morning. See? So here we have, a guy who's, he takes a drink, phenomenon of craving develops, see, and the well-known stages of a spree are beginning to hit him. Everybody know this experience? You got any experience of this with drugs or alcohol? Okay, I remember having several more that night, plenty next morning. I have a shadowy recollection of being in an airplane scene. So he goes into a blackout. Blackouts don't happen to all alcoholics, but they happen to this guy. Okay? Shadowy recollection, being in an airplane bound for New York and of finding a friendly taxi cab driver at the landing field instead of my wife. The driver escorted me about for several days. I know little of where I went or what I said and did, and then came the hospital with what? Unbearable mental and physical fun. Okay? They emerge how? Doctor's opinion says, well-known stages of a spree emerging how? Remorseful. See, followed by what? A firm resolution not to drink again. So here's Fred, see, and he lands in a detox somewhere. Really doesn't even know how he got there. Okay. Now, what we see in the next paragraph, see, is the value of a 12-step call. The 2 guys from AA went and saw this guy in a hospital. See, his finger does the old automatic up yours. See, not true. See, but now, bitter experience has him flat on his back once again. See, and the seed that was planted in his mind, see, is now beginning to make him look at what went on. See, so in this next paragraph, see, the guys from AA haven't shown up yet. He's just starting to run through this. It says, as soon as I regained my ability to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington. See, what do italics mean?
Don't pay attention to
Don't pay
this.
any attention to this. This is not important. See, not only had I been off guard, see how, remember up here, the very first thing about his mental defense was that what? He was positive. See? He had no doubt whatsoever, see, that he was going to be able to stay sober. See, but do you think he's got a doubt now? He's a little less positive about this? What's teaching it to him? See? Not only had I been off guard, I had made no fight whatever against the first drink. See? This time I had not thought, no mental defense, I had not thought of the consequences at all. See? Did he have a desire not to drink? Did he think he had a choice? See? Did he have a lot of willpower? See? He was going to rely on his memory, think it through, the certain consequences. What happened? None of that was there. Okay? This time I had not thought of the consequences at all. I had commenced to drink as carelessly as though the cocktails were ginger ale. Has anybody ever done this besides me? I now remembered. See, what does now remembered mean? Hindsight. See? Anybody good at deciphering? It's his problem with alcoholics, see, is that the foresight ain't there. Okay? It says, I now remembered what my alcoholic friends had told me, how they prophesied. Everybody know what a prophecy is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's foretelling the future. Okay? How they prophesied that, and the word after that is if. Okay, remember, at the beginning of the chapter, they said, we don't want to pronounce anybody as an alcoholic. And we looked at why that is, because we do not accept that diagnosis from other people. You got to diagnose yourself. See, so they told him what it was and asked him to look at his own experience. See, and then told him, see, that if he's an alcoholic, if I had an alcoholic what?
Mind.
See, don't turn the page. Go real slow here. It says the time and place. What's the word after place? See, what's the difference if you wrote might in there? Yeah, would is positive.
It's absolute.
Certain. It doesn't say it might come. It doesn't say it could come. The time and place would come. Certainty. Okay, and that's a prophecy for a real alcoholic. See, I hear people in AA all the time say, oh, nobody knows if anybody else is going to drink. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, so, if I had an alcoholic mind, the time and place would come. I would, not I might, drink again. See, now that's powerless, see, isn't it? See, have you accepted, see, if you can see allergy and obsession in your own experience, have you accepted the certainty of your relapse? See, because it's going to happen. See, it's not a maybe. See, it's got nothing to do with whether you go to meetings or not. Relapse is certain if you are an alcoholic. That's what powerless means. There is no way to prevent it. Okay? So ask him. Remember, we've been looking. What do you got to lose? See? All this stuff we've been looking at as we go through the book saying, see? What's your future going to look like if you accept the certainty, see, that you're going to relapse? See, the time and place will come. A real alcoholic will drink again. Top of page 42. They had said that though I did raise a defense, and Fred raised a pretty good one, didn't he?
Yep.
All right. Now, how about yours? Have you raised a defense?
Yep.
Pretty good one so far?
Yep.
Okay. I did raise a defense. It might one day. It would. And what are the next two words? One day. See? Could this be true about you? See? It would one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink. Suddenly the thought crosses my mind. I think I'll just smoke a doob. I think I'll just have a beer. It's such a lovely salad, a little Chianti, you know. Whatever. Okay, well, just that did happen. See, and more. For what I had learned of alcoholism, what's that? All the self-knowledge. See? See, I've seen people with degrees in alcoholism counselors, die of the disease of alcoholism.
Yep.
Lots of knowledge. Okay? What I had learned of alcoholism did not occur to me at all. See? And that's a pretty hairy statement when you really look at it. Didn't even occur. See? It wasn't like it occurred and you went, no big deal this time. See, it didn't occur at all. See? There is no choice. See? I knew from that moment what an alcoholic mind is. Is that what your book says?
No.
No? How many people nodded their head yes? Read the sentence very carefully. I knew from that moment that I...
Right.
See? This ain't about learning what it is. This is about facing the fact whether you got it or not. See? I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. See, now this is a guy pretty high up on the doom curve. He's what we call a high-bottom drunk in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. I saw. Notice the first two words in both those sentences. I knew and I saw. See, that willpower. Whose willpower? His own. So I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those what? Okay, everybody remember we've been writing strange mental blunt spot in the margin of the book ever since Bill's story? See? See, all those times, see, that those various things happened to him, all the stuff that we saw in chapter 2 about not thinking at all. See, getting drunk without a plan, a reason. It ain't about setting yourself up. See, any of that kind of stuff. See, it ain't about how you feel about yourself. It's none of those things. Strange mental blank spots. The chronic alcoholic mind. I've never seen one single case recover, said Carl Young. So you might underline the next sentence, see, and really begin to consider what he's saying here. I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them what? Hopelessly defeated. No way. There's got to be a way out. What is hopelessly defeated? Doomed. See, this is like having somebody hang your chest pictures up on a wall, see, and tell you that you got some kind of terminal, inoperable cancer. No different. See, nobody likes the diagnosis. I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. It's un-American. It is. But that's what powerless means. See? And yet we're all running around, see, thinking that there's got to be some kind of answer to this. And that's why we all get into every new idea that comes, roaring down the treatment pipe. See, all the self-help and the new, painted red old ideas, all that kind of stuff. See, but this is either true or it's false. See, obviously it was true for the folks that started AA and that wrote the book, see, and it's true about me. See, but nobody can tell you if it's true about you, can they? See, who's the only one that can diagnose you? You. See? So it's a matter of, these are the facts or they're not the facts. Okay? So I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. I knew then, and it was a what? Crushing blow. To what? The ego. Yeah, the pride. See? We all go through our lives, see, and all this terrible stuff starts happening, and we lose our husbands and our wives and our families, and our health and our money, and, it just gradually goes. See? And Fred had been at the beginning of that, see, not at the end of it. And the last thing, see, anybody hangs on to is their pride. Not me. I'm not that bad. It'll never happen to me. I'm not beaten. I'm not licked. Okay, so here's Fred having something called no fun in the recovery house or the hospital. All right, so 2 guys from AA show up again. All right, I'd like you to notice how they hug him back to health. 2 of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to see me. Starting off with, they grinned, which I didn't like so much. And then asked me if I'd learned how to love myself yet. See? If I was willing now to deal with my feelings. They grinned and then gave me a hug. Now, they grinned and then did what? Asked me if I thought myself alcoholic and if I were really licked this time. See? Now, remember on the first page where I'm taking you back to that sentence a couple of times, it says we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. See, so then they went on to give us all those examples and said that the only thing that will teach it to most alcoholics is bitter experience. What has Fred just come through?
Bitter experience.
Another bitter experience. So here he is, bad case of the shakes, see, screwed up, pretty bad, see, and they walk in and say, okay, see, you want to do something about it this time. See, Fred says, I had to underline the next word. So finally, see, he's going to concede to his innermost self. See, that he is an alcoholic and he is powerless. See, he does have the disease of alcoholism. See? They couldn't teach it to him. See, the only thing that taught him was going and doing it again, paying the price. Okay, so now they hug him? No. Now they piled on me heaps of evidence to the effect that an alcoholic mentality such as I had exhibited in Washington was a what? Hopeless condition. Okay? And this process snuffed out the last, they cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen, and this process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction that I could do the job myself. See, so when people told drunkalogs in the early days of AA, see, this was not some kind of entertainment exercise. See, this was always done in an attempt, see, coming from someone who had recovered and understood his own disease, to convey to the new person who doesn't understand, see, how the disease works and why it is, see, that this is a hopeless situation. That's what drunkalogs have always been about. See, but over the years, they've become this entertainment kind of thing in many cases. They are, like there's something magic in telling your story. There's really not. See, it's simply a tool, see, in carrying the message to a new alcoholic. See, so these guys are not hugging him, are they? See, they're telling him the truth. See, and by doing this, see, they help this guy to see that he is powerless. See? They're telling him that not only is it worse this time than it was last time, it's going to happen again and be worse again. See? And then it's going to be worse again, and then it's going to be worse again. See? It just keeps getting worse. See? And old Fred is finally going, whoa. Okay, so where it says, this process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction I could do the job myself. So you put a note in the margin of the book there, Fred takes step one. See, he admits that he's powerless over alcohol. His life's unmanageable, even though he owns an accounting firm, has a wife, kids, a big house, and he's doing well financially. He sees he's a real alcoholic. It's not a joke to him anymore. Okay, so now that they have convinced him of step one, now they're going to start talking to him about step two and the rest of the solution. See, because the solution, the steps, are useless to people that don't take the first step. Okay, so Fred takes step one. They're in hospital now. See, it says, then they outline the spiritual answer. And, underline the next three words, program of action. See, and you might just notice the difference between a program of action and what you drew and wrote in your circle a little while ago. Spiritual answer and program of action, which 100 of them had followed successfully. Though I had been only a nominal churchman. Everybody know what nominal churchman means? Called himself a Christian, doesn't go to church. Though I had been only a nominal churchman, their proposals were not intellectually hard to swallow. See, we got lots of folks that can sit around and discuss the steps. Okay? Alcoholics love to do that. See, we're into discussions. See, intellectually, none of this is hard to swallow. People love to talk about denial and fear and resentment. Talk. See, but the next sentence, see, the program of action, though entirely sensible, was pretty drastic. See, so talking don't cut it. See, intellectually, this is not too difficult to grasp. But doing it is what? Drastic. See, doing it is drastic. Okay, and we saw almost exactly the same words back on page 14, if you remember when Bill was talking about what happened to him. Okay, it meant I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out the window. Conceptions are beliefs or fixed ideas. See, what kind of conceptions and fixed ideas you think this guy had to get rid of? What's an alcoholic for openers? See? Powerlessness. See? God, spirituality, the purpose of his life. Relationships with other people. Okay. Several lifelong conceptions. Let's all read the next sentence together out loud. That was not easy. See? Anybody think it's easy? This ain't easy. See? This is not easy. See, it meant I would have to. Have to translates into must. Throw several lifelong conceptions out the window. That's not easy. Powerlessness is not easy to admit, and manageability of our lives is not easy to admit. Coming to a belief in a higher power is not easy to admit. But the moment I made up my mind to do what? Through with the process, I had the curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be. And so this is something I just want to point out to you again as you reread the book, go over this stuff on your own. See, what you'll notice is that every time we see somebody in the book, see, who decides to stop drinking and puts the plug in the jug, what do they end up doing? Drinking. Every time in the book we see someone who decides, see, that since they can do nothing about their drinking, they make a right turn here, see, and go through with the 12-step program, what happens to them? They sober up. And they stay sober. See? So a lot of us are operating on, we have decided to stop drinking. See? We put the plug in the jug. We don't want to drink anymore. See? But all the examples we see in the book says that's not going to work. If you're powerless, it's not going to work. See? It's a good thing, okay, not to be drinking today. See? But if that's what you're going to rely on, your chances of remaining sober are very slim. Okay? The moment I made up my mind to go through with the process. What's the process? 12-step program of action that we talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I had the curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be. So Fred, takes step 1, 2, and 3 here in the hospital, and boom, his obsession to drink was removed right there. It's kind of interesting. Quite as important was the discovery that I'd have to go to the meetings the rest of my life and deal with my feelings and be all fucked up and depressed. What's your book say there? Quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems. If you're familiar with step 12, and if you're not, it's up here on the board, you look at the third part of it, it says to practice these principles in all of our affairs. See? And we don't do that because we want to be choir boys. See? Or we want to be holy or walk on water. See, the reason for doing that is that it works. See? You want your life to work? See? How's it going now? See? Quite as important, was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems. I've since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying, and I hope more useful than the life I lived before. See, now remember, this guy wasn't too far down that doom curve, was he? Okay. So what has occurred here is a change in Fred at this point. Can you all see that? See? He's no longer positive about all this. And something happened in here where all this stuff goes away. What's going to keep him sober now? So, is that complicated? See? It ain't his feelings, it ain't his emotions. See? It's none of that. See, he sees that he's powerless. He's going to make a decision. See? And this is where sobriety comes from. That's it. Nothing more. It's nothing more complicated than that. It's not self-confidence, self-esteem, dealing with feelings, any of that kind of stuff. See? Has this guy gone to a Dale Carnegie course while he's in the hospital? Learned to think positively? See? Has he undergone psychotherapy while he's in the hospital here? Nope. See? None of those things is necessary. See? It's a simple program of action. See? It starts with admitting that we really are alcoholic. Okay? Yeah. Is that pretty clear to everybody? See, we get this way too complicated in a lot of our discussions. It's got unsolvable problem, simple solution. How do you get from one to the other? Got to be convinced. Okay. So he says, I've been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying than anything he had had before. And then he says, my old manner of life was by no means a bad one, but I would not exchange its best moments for the worst I have now. I would not go back to it even if I could. He says it's got nothing to do with the material portion of his life. See, he doesn't have to run out, and divorce his wife and get rid of his kids and sell his house, shave his head, eat rice, and be holy. See, none of that was required. See, he's living in the same situation he was living in before, but something very drastic has changed, but it ain't on the outside. Where is it? It's on the inside. Okay? So Fred's story speaks for itself. We hope it strikes home to thousands like him. He had felt only the first nip of the ringer. Okay, let's go back to the doom curve here. Here's start. What's at the bottom? Black. Okay, now, when we went through Bill's story, see, Bill, he got the message down here somewhere. Where's Fred on this curve? He's pretty far up here somewhere, isn't he? Okay? So let's say Fred's there. See, he doesn't even have a clue how bad it could have got in his life. So what they're saying here is we hope, that Fred's story strikes home to thousands like him, meaning thousands like Fred. Now where are these thousands? Up here. Okay? See, most of us carry around this picture of the stereotypical real alcoholic. see, as this guy, see, with shit in his pants, drinking Mad Dog out of a paper bag under a bridge somewhere, see, or some lady pushing a cart, down Central Avenue. See, those are the folks down here. See, statistics and studies are telling us that the people that you see out on the street, see, the homeless, hope to die drunks that you see wandering around in gutters and parks and all that, make up about 3% only of the total number of alcoholics that there are. See, if you took all of those kind of folks in the entire United States and added them up, that's what they come out to. That means there's 97% that aren't there. Where are these other 97%? Up here, most of them. See? I mean, think about this logically. See, if alcoholism really is a fatal disease, see, then you'd have the most people who have it would be up here. See, and as time progresses, you get fewer. See? So most people, see, don't make it that far. Okay, so up here, what do we got? We got school teachers, we got politicians, we got physicians, we got nurses, see, we got bakers, we got cab drivers, we got moms and dads, see, we got students, see, we got married people, see, we got brothers and sisters, we got people that look normal, see, and where are thousands like Fred, see, who are standing on the doom curve. See, they got the allergy, got the obsession. See, and what they're telling us here is that we hope that a story like this strikes home to anybody, see, who finds themselves walking into AA at this point, see, rather than down here if you live that long. Does that make sense there, Will? He had felt only the first nip of the ringer. Let's all read the next sentence together out loud. Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. Does everybody know what a D9 caterpillar is? It's a great big piece of earth-moving equipment that you see on a major construction site. They operate, they don't have tires, they got tracks like a tank. Say there's a D9 caterpillar out here moving a little dirt, see, and I just walk over and I stick my arm in the tread of that thing. What's going to happen to my arm? It's going to get mangled, see? What does mangled mean? Torn and ripped and rendered useless and, see, all that kind of stuff. See, if my arm ever came out of that, see, then I'd end up in a hospital and they'd do their best, but I'd probably have very limited function if it was still there. Okay, see, that's the kind of word mangle is. See, they don't say boo-boo here. See, we're not talking about emotional boo-boo. See, I got a little spiritual road rash, and that's my problem. What does mangle mean? See, look at your own experience. See, what has happened so far in your life? You don't find a solution. What's in your future? See, take an honest look yourself. See if you're looking that way and your future is that way. See? This is where we all need to really be honest with ourselves. It says most alcoholics. What does the word most mean? Look around this room. See, if the statistics are true, 90% of the people in this room are going to die of their alcoholism. Going to relapse, die of it. So look around. See? Who are the 9 out of 10 in this room that are going to do that? What does the word most mean to you? See, and if you're sitting here and you've erased 9 out of 10 of the others, just be aware that everybody else has just erased you. Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. Okay, now many doctors and psychiatrists think we are full of shit. What does your book say? Agree with our conclusions. One of these men is, I just want you to keep noticing, see how they keep trotting out these lightweights? Carl Jung, William Silkworth, staff member of a world-renowned hospital, recently made this statement to some of us. What you say about the general hopelessness, see, of the average alcoholic's plight is, in my opinion, what?
Correct.
Correct. All right, now looking at this doom curve, where does the average alcoholic fall? Down here? See, the general fatal hopelessness of being an alcoholic, even in these kind of circumstances, high up, high bond rate. What you say about the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic's plight is, in my opinion, bullshit. Correct. As to two of you men whose stories I've heard, there's no doubt in my mind that you were what? 100% hopeless. Apart from what? Divine help. This is pretty amazing. See, think of this guy, this is not a priest talking, see, or a minister. See, this is a guy, pretty intelligent doctor, obviously a non-alcoholic, physician, well-trained, a lot of experience, see, who's obviously, pretty scientific-minded, not religious or spiritual-minded at all. See, but notice what he says here. He says, had you offered yourselves as patients at this hospital, I would not have taken you if I had been able to avoid it. Why? People like you are too heartbreaking. Remember all this stuff we've read so far? Do not respond. Medical, psychological, psychiatric treatment. You do everything we can, you run out and get drunk again. And besides that, you give me the finger and don't pay your bill. People like you are too heartbreaking. See, ask yourself, you broken anybody's heart yet? Yeah, I broke a few. See, you might ask yourself if you have. See, people tried to help you. What happened as a result of that? Though not a religious person, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most, there's that word again, most cases, there is what? Virtually no other solution. So, once again, look at your own experience. Look at what's available out there in the world. How are you doing so far? Okay, once more, see, as if we haven't heard this enough. The alcoholic, all right, now, do you think at this point, having understood everything we've gone through up to here, that you might be, or you are, an alcoholic? Put your name right there, where it says alcoholic. See, if you got enough understanding and enough of a view of your own experience, your own doom curve up to this point, that you're pretty clear that you're an alcoholic, just put your name right there. The alcoholic. Next three words are at certain times. See, what is that? Strange mental blank spots. Chronic alcoholic mind. The alcoholic, at certain times, has no effective mental defense. See? No choice, no willpower, no desire, no thinking it through, no group support, no nothing. At certain times. Against what? The first drink. Okay, so if you're an alcoholic and you take the first drink, what's certain to occur at that point? Phenomenon of craving, followed by getting drunk, loaded, paying the price. Okay, except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. So how many people in here go to AA meetings? Okay, you walk in, what do you see in AA meetings? You see 40 gods sitting there, or you see 40 human beings sitting there? Okay, how many people go to any kind of aftercare? Anything like that? Anybody? One or two? Okay, what do you see in there? Human beings? Okay, anybody see a shrink or a therapist? Okay. What's that? Human being? Okay. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being, see, can provide such a defense. Okay, so his or her defense, no musts in the program, right? His defense must come from where? Higher power. Or what? Or there will be relapse. Okay? See? I don't generally like to say, well, if you drink, you're going to die, because most people in this room, if they went out and drank today, wouldn't die today. Might not die for 5 years. So you'll have a hideous bad time, see, between whenever you take the first drink and whenever you die. See, but it might be a while before you die. There was a saying in the early days of AA that the lucky ones die young. One of the really weird things about alcoholism, see, is that, a lot of people say you lose all will to live, as you get further on down. See, but you might remember that in Bill's story where, see, he wanted to off himself. He was cursing himself for being too weak to kill himself there about page 6 in the story. And that had gone on for a couple of years. Have any of you gone through periods of, like really intense suicidal depression? And you make these firm decisions to do that, and then you end up drunk and loaded. See, so it's not only, no will to live, but no will to die either. See, absolutely enslaved to the obsession to drink. See, obsession to drink is more powerful than, for most of us, than a desire to die or a desire to live. See, it just simply becomes living, one might say, as Dr. Sokra said, to drink. See, and that's real common stuff in alcoholics. Lots of people in AA, if you listen, see, talk about wanting to kill themselves for years and years, in many cases. Unable to do that. See, why? The obsession to drink is more powerful than anything else. See? See, so there's lots of talk. A few of us succeed. Most of us don't. Okay, so let's read that last paragraph one more time, and then we got 15, 20 minutes if you want to talk. The alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. See, are you the exception? That's what you need to ask yourself. Are you going to be the exception? Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. So his defense must come from a higher power. Okay, next week we're going to start in chapter 4, and we've probably got a bunch of us here who've never even read it. It's pretty interesting stuff. Okay, we're going to learn all about what's an agnostic and what's an atheist and what's this and what's that. Old ideas and how we come to believe and all kinds of stuff. It deals mostly with the beginning of step 2. What you'll notice now is that we begin to leave all discussion of drinking behind and we start talking about solution. The assumption is that we're convinced of step 1. And we understand what powerless means, powerless over alcohol, and what an unmanageable life means in terms of being an alcoholic, certain to drink again. So you may want to stay sober, you may have a desperate desire to stay sober. So a real alcoholic with a desperate desire to stay sober will relapse anyway. So now we're beginning to get into the solution, which starts on page 44. It's the chapter We Agnostic. As I go around talking to people in Alcoholics Anonymous, what I find is that this is probably the least read chapter in the big book. Maybe half the people I know in AA own a big book. Half of those may read the big book. And maybe 10% of them ever read chapter 4. So there's a lot of information in this chapter that we all need to understand. It's all about the first half of step 2, which is coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Everybody familiar with the words? If you're not familiar with the words, you might look up on the wall here at step 2. See, notice that it doesn't say came to believe in God. See, and it doesn't say came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sobriety. And it doesn't say came to believe that going to 90 meetings in 90 days would solve the problem. It came to believe that if we got in touch with ourselves and our feelings and our emotions, that would solve the problem. So it's a very specific step. Okay? And all the words in the step are important. Okay? Now, is there anybody in this room that spent the night in this room? Nobody. Okay, that means that we all came from somewhere to here this morning, right? So you had to come here. See? Now, if you came here, that means, see, we were all somewhere else before we got here. Pretty simple? See? So the word came implies that you are or were somewhere, and you got to leave that place, see, and move. Does that make sense? See? So it's a step, and it implies movement. First word, came. See? Now, what we all need to understand then is where are we coming from? See? Where are we in terms of this thing called a higher power? Okay, and that's why we're going to go over these definitions that are up here on the board, because there are really only 3 places that a person can be, see, when it comes to God and spirituality. And that's an agnostic, an atheist, or a believer. Okay, so the second part of step 2 is that we came to believe. Belief is an important word, and we need to understand what it means. Okay, so once again, so what I want to tell you is that these definitions that I got up here, they are things that I got out of dictionaries. But I'd like to suggest to you that you just look at them with an open mind, or go do your own research. See, be clear for yourself what all this stuff means. See, check the facts out for yourself. Don't believe me. Okay, so what's a belief? A belief is a mental conviction. If it's a mental conviction, where does it go on?
In the mind.
In the mind. Okay, so one of the mistakes a lot of people make in Alcoholics Anonymous is they think step 2 says came to believe in God, so they walk in the door and say, okay, I believe in God, and start praying. See, but if a belief exists in the mind and nothing further happens, see, what does that person now have when it comes to alcohol? A mental defense. Okay, so a belief is insufficient. See, notice that the only place we see believe is in step 2. A lot of stuff has to follow. See, coming to believe. And so we have a lot of people who try to stay sober because they believe in God and don't make it. Okay, so belief is a mental conviction without certain proof. What does that mean? Okay, a friend of mine loaned me that van. That's what I'm driving around out there. And if I told you all that there was a coffee cup sitting on a little rack right up in the front, would you believe me? See, some of you might, some of you might not. Okay, so we would have a room full of people, some of who would believe that there's a coffee cup there, some who would not believe it. See, but how many of you would know? Nobody. See, so whether you believe, whether you don't believe, you still don't know. Right? So in order to know whether I told you the truth, what would you have to do? Go look. You have to go check it out for yourself. Find out for yourself. See, so a belief doesn't mean we know anything. Everybody see that? See, I'm mentally convinced, yeah, Mike wouldn't lie about the coffee cup. See, but you still don't know. I could be lying. See, I could be selling snake oil. Right? And see, when you walk into Alcoholics Anonymous and you start talking about God, well, we could be lying, couldn't we? It's possible. So what's the only way any of us will ever know? Check it out for yourself. Okay? It's not enough to be mentally convinced, see, but not to really understand or to know or to have proof. Okay? Now, belief to really understand or to know or to have proof. Okay? Now, beliefs are very powerful things, and see, there are plenty of good examples in the world about powerful beliefs. Santa Claus may be the best one. Okay? How many people believed in Santa Claus somewhere along the line? Anybody? Okay. Okay, why do, if you talk to a little 6-year-old kid and say, is there a Santa Claus, what's the kid going to say?
Yeah.
You bet. Say, how do you know? See, and they'd say, well, Mommy tells me and Daddy tells me and the presents come on Christmas and I see it on TV and I hear it on the radio and, we do it in school and see, we have parties and it goes on and it's really neat and I look forward to it all year long and it's just wonderful. See? And there's no way in the world you're going to convince a 6-year-old kid that it's all a lie. See? But is it the truth? No, Santa Claus is not the truth. Okay, so you might look and see what happened to you when you found out Santa Claus wasn't the truth. Were you happy and thrilled? See, when your belief got smashed? See, or did you get pissed off and start making decisions that people lie and affects my pride and I've been made a fool of and oh damn, and all this kind of stuff. It's been Mommy and Daddy all along. Anybody do that when you were a kid? Okay, see, so when beliefs get proven to be false, people get angry. Okay? And we will come into Alcoholics Anonymous and a lot of our beliefs get challenged. See? And generally what happens is we start doing one of these numbers. Hey, wait a minute. Okay, see, so beliefs are very powerful things. See? And those of you who, went to school for 4 or 5 years, took some history, I'm sure you know that all the way back through history, see, a lot of wars and, tragedies in life in this world have happened as a result of conflicting beliefs. Religious, economic, political, social, all kinds of stuff. So it goes on because of people's conflicting beliefs. So beliefs are very powerful things, and where do they go on? In the mind. Okay, everybody got it about a belief? Okay, so we're going to come to a very powerful thing, see, about a higher power. Now we have to know where we are, so we're going to go over these definitions, and you got to just check and see where you're coming from. Okay, the first one is an agnostic. Now, an agnostic is somebody who says, I don't know if God exists. Freely admits that. See, I don't know, I'm not sure, there might be, there might not be. See, but the agnostic also believes that it's impossible to find out. See, that nobody can know for sure whether God exists. That's a belief. Okay, that exists where? In the mind. Okay, so the agnostic says, I don't know, I'm not sure, okay, but I believe nobody can really know. Okay, what's an atheist? An atheist is somebody who believes, see, that there isn't any God at all. See, no God exists. See, there isn't one. Now, if there isn't one, then a spiritual experience would be impossible, wouldn't it? See, to have that belief means, the solution that we're talking about is not a possible thing. Okay, now where does the atheist believe that? In his or her mind, right? Okay, so, I've kind of bounced around through all these positions in my life, and there were points where I thought I was an atheist and points where I thought I was an agnostic, and I was raised a Catholic, so I was a believer at some point. And one of the things I can notice about my own experience is that an atheist walks around and talks to the believers in the world, see, and says to them, prove to me that there is a God. See, and the believer starts tripping all over their dogma in an attempt to do that. The atheist sits there and smiles and says, wrong. See, wrong. See, and then makes this fundamental error. See, and the fundamental error of the atheist is that since you can't prove to me that God does exist, that is proof that God doesn't. See, and that's a fundamental logical error. See, what the atheist never notices is that he or she cannot prove that God doesn't. See, it's a very fundamental, very simple kind of an error. See, so the atheist, see, is operating not on truth, but on a belief. See, if it's a belief, where is it? It's in the mind of that person. See, but they can't prove it. Okay, if they can't prove it, what's the truth about it? They don't know. If they don't know, what are they really? See, and most atheists don't even realize that they're agnostic. Okay? So the atheist really, see, is just as agnostic as the agnostic who says, I don't know. See, the atheist is saying, I do know. False. Can't prove it. Okay, everybody got that? See, you might look at that. Okay, then we get down here and we got the believer. Now, the real term for a believer is theist. See, it comes from the word theos, which means God or deity, something like that. Okay, but we just call people who believe in God believers. Okay, so we have people who walk into Alcoholics Anonymous who are agnostics, and some who walk in here that are atheists, and we got other people who come in, priests and nuns, and people who've been religious all their life, go to church. They may be very active in their religion, but they got this problem, they can't stay sober. See, so what is the problem with those of us in that category? Okay, we believe that God does exist. See, and we are firmly convinced of that. See, we have all our religious or spiritual convictions. Convictions means belief. But the problem is they haven't worked. See, and how do we know they haven't worked? What are we doing here? Why can't we stay sober? See, if it was working, we never would have come to AA. Okay, so what's the problem with somebody who already believes that God does exist? It's this word. Okay? The believer believes. Where do they believe it? In their mind. But they can't prove it. If they can't prove it, they don't know. We agnostics. Okay? So take a look and see where you're coming from here. Okay? See, step 2 is about a belief. Step 12 is about a what? Experience. Okay? Go look in the van, see if it's there. Okay? Okay, belief is insufficient. It's very powerful, but it's insufficient. And you might remember back in chapter 2, right towards the end, where Carl Jung was talking to that guy Roland, who was a hopeless drunk. And he told Roland about a spiritual experience, and Roland got all happy. Yeah, okay, I believe in God. See, I'm a church-going kind of guy. And Carl Jung says, insufficient. Okay? Your religious convictions are very good, see, but in your case, they do not spell the necessary vital spiritual experience. See? It's a different thing that we're talking about here. So we're not here to ask anybody to give up, if you're someone who has a lot of faith and been religious all your life, you're not getting asked to abandon your religion or anything. So the steps are simply to produce an experience. It'll make you a better whatever religion you are. Okay? So if you're looking for something that works here. Okay, everybody understand those things? Take a look where you are. Okay, now we got two more terms down here. You might remember this, the first term, diagnosis, from page 31. We don't like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. Okay, so remember, diagnosis means to recognize a disease. Okay, so what did we find out in chapter 3? You got to recognize your own disease. It's insufficient to be told, because if somebody tells you, then you're going to be operating on a belief. Beliefs don't work. Okay? So diagnosis means to recognize a disease. Once a disease gets recognized, see, then you can have what's called a prognosis. See, and the prognosis means what course or what will happen as a result of having the disease. See, for example, if I went to a doctor and he told me that I had terminal cancer, what do you think my next question would be? How long do I have? See, now the answer to that question is the prognosis for me. See, based on the diagnosis that was just made. Okay. Now, in chapter 4, see, the first paragraph is the diagnosis, and the second paragraph is the prognosis. Okay. And the reason I put these two terms up here is so that you can see something that is similar in these words. They all have the same root. See, it comes from the Greek word gnosis, G-N-O-S-S, and it means truth. Agnostic is a spiritual term, but prognosis and diagnosis, those are medical terms, see, but they all have exactly the same root. See, it's the Greek word which means truth, facts, see, not guesses and theories and wishes and dreams and stuff like that. There's only one word in the dictionary that I know that is used to describe someone who is spiritually awakened, and that word is Gnostic, G-N-O-S-T-I-C.
What is it?
Gnostic means someone who is spiritually awakened, someone who has an awareness of spiritual truth. G-N-O-S-T-I-C. The G is silent, obviously.
Say that again.
G-N-O-S-T-I-C. If you put the letter A in front of a word, it means without. You ever heard words like amoral, apolitical, and asexual? Words like that? Okay, see, it means without politics, see, without morals. So anytime you put an A. See, so notice that here we have the word Gnostic with an A in front of it. See, agnostic means someone who doesn't know. See, now, where we got to get, see, is from agnostic to Gnostic. What does that mean? You got to get your A kicked. See, everybody's got to get their A kicked here. That's the solution. Very simple. Okay, everybody understand this stuff? Can you start to look, see where you are, where you're coming from? Okay. See, Bill Wilson had a spiritual advisor. A guy's name was Edward Dowling. He was a Jesuit priest, and he got up in front of one of the first world conventions of Alcoholics Anonymous back in the 50s. He stood up there, this guy, with a Roman collar and all that, little old dude, and he said, he looked out over this sea of thousands of alcoholic faces, and he said, we're all agnostics, see, including himself. See, very interesting. We're all agnostics. We agnostics. Okay, let's go to page 44. It says, in the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. What are they referring to? Starting with the doctor's opinion, and Bill's story. Chapter 2, there is a solution, and the chapter we went over the last 2 weeks, which is chapter 3, more about alcoholism. See, so we didn't learn everything there is to know about alcoholism, but we learned something of alcoholism.